Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tokuskai Inside Look podcast. This episode is brought to you by our amazing patrons over at Patreon. From a cup of coffee to a bowl of ramen per month, they've shown their support. If you are enjoying this work, please consider supporting me at patreon.com/Tokuskai Canada. Hey guys, one thing before we continue to the interview. I have an important request on behalf of Marko and the Kendo Club Rijeka. A couple of months ago in December 2020, Croatia was hit with an earthquake that reached up to 6.4 on the Richter scale. One of the Dojo founders in central Croatia lost his home, and all the clubs around the country have come together to support him and his family. They are still in the process of collecting money, so if you are inclined to help out, you can reach out to Marko and his dojo through Facebook or email them at info@rijekakendo.com. That's RIJEKA kendo.com. Thanks for your attention, and now on to this inside look with Marko Vejvoda.
So my name is Marko Vejvoda. I come from Rijeka, Croatia. It's a small city on the northern part of the Adriatic Sea. Basically lived here all my life. I had a pretty normal upbringing, you could say. During my childhood, during elementary school, I trained water polo and swimming. So that was like my whole elementary school. I remember going by bus to the swimming pool and training and then coming back. Unfortunately, during high school, I stopped doing everything due to schedule conflicts. And then basically until college, like a few years into college, I decided with my best friend that like we didn't do anything for a long time physically, and we decided we gotta start something. And Kendo was like, for me, it was the first choice to start. It was in part due to some influences from my mother. She really wanted me to do martial arts, but it was also an interest on my part because during my teenage years I really liked James Clavell's novels, and one of my favorite novels by him was Shogun. And if you've read it, if anyone knows it, it's a really long story. One of the first people that came to Japan from foreign seas, who was stuck there, you could say, and became like an advisor. I mean, it's a really good book, and it showed me a side of the Japanese culture that I didn't know at the time, and it really, I wouldn't say impressed me, but it left an impression on me. So I was like, I had an interest from that point on in Japanese culture. And of course,
In terms of Croatia, is
mhm.
Japanese culture like well known? Do you have restaurants all over the place? Is like
No. In Croatia, it's not really well known. It's a bit of a fringe interest, you could say. No, people nowadays it's more, but even in at my day, it was more like the interest from Japanese culture came from anime or something like that. Nowadays also, no. So Kendo and martial arts, it was more like the well-known martial arts that have influence here. For karate is very popular, judo, things like that. Kendo, I mean, like when I started in my town, it was the very, very bare beginnings of Kendo. So it's not very popular. It's starting now a bit more.
what would be considered Croatia's national sport, and what are people interested in?
Football, soccer for North Americans, but football definitely it's like number one. The Croatian team, I don't know if you ever followed it, that did really well and a couple of World Cups. So it's really a national sport here. When it's the World Cup, everybody's watching football, like everybody. So on the street, everything stops and you watch the Croatian team. And that was most of the interests during my childhood in elementary school. Even for me, was football. But growing up, I became disinterested in following it. I still liked the sport. I enjoy all sports, but I didn't have any interest in following matches or something like that.
One thing I've always found is that, or I've heard too, from professional athletes, as anyone that's played football or soccer tend to bring into whatever else they pursue some really good footwork. Like they have a very good awareness of their feet, where their feet are, where their balance is. Did you find that even just from a recreational standpoint?
I really never thought about it until you said it now, but probably, yeah, because as kids, football is like you always, when you're out and somebody has a ball, you play football. You find a space between buildings or a field or something, and you just play it. So probably, yeah, it certainly helps with conditioning because you run a lot, but certainly for mechanical footwork and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't think about it, but it definitely helps. Yeah.
So you're saying there wasn't much kendo there. What was that early beginning like?
So the early beginning, that was basically the beginning of my journey, you could say, because when I started, I was looking for kendo. No, I really wanted kendo, and I found a s you. It was a dojo that had a lot of other martial arts. So they had Aikido, that had Krav Maga, and also some fitness, kettlebell, stuff like that. And they had kendo. And kendo at that time, like I remember the first training I saw, it was just one of my friends that later became one of my friends. He just had a shinai. He didn't even have a gi and hakama, and they did suburi. And I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. It's kendo, and I want to do it. And later I found out that that was like a month after some guys from the capital, from Zagreb, came to Rijeka and did a small seminar in that dojo to start something in that city. So basically, when I started, it was really the beginning. We didn't have bogu, I mean the armors or anything. It was just shinai and really basic stuff.
So talk about that process, because I think that what I'm really gaining a lot from these interviews is seeing how people start their dojos, because that's always going to be a thing. Even as you get to be more seniors, maybe some of your students are going to need to start dojos. Could you talk about your process or whatever you guys went through?
Yeah, so basically it started when I started. I was very lucky to start in that place because, like I said, it had also that fitness program. So at the same time, I started Kendo, Aikido, and kettlebells. So it was more of a, because they had the same price, the monthly price for training. So I started all three. So I was very lucky in the beginning because I started with also starting acquiring some like physical abilities. I mean, physical training skills from the kettlebells because I've had a very good trainer there who later also became my mentor because I trained a lot with him with kettlebells. And I later also a few years back had a certificate for a fitness trainer and stuff like that. So that really helped me in the beginning, but mostly it was we wanted to start like only kendo because the dojo, it was spread thin, you could say. They had Aikido and everybody could train everything. It wasn't really a focus on one martial art. And us couple of guys, we were really serious into Kendo. We were really were biting for more knowledge for everything. So it was a logical step because there wasn't any other Kendo club in Rijeka. We were the only ones doing Kendo. So it was logical. Okay, what should we do? We're going to start our own club. In hindsight, it was really a bold move because when I think about those early days now, we were really gung-ho. We were really crazy about doing everything, going on seminars, attending practices outside our town and everything. So for me, the most important thing is passion, you could say, or courage, because all other things will come if you have those two. Technical ability, physical ability, if you train and if you're passionate about it, if you have the courage to go a bit out of your comfort zone, it won't be a problem. Really, it will come to you. People will recognize, and you will have more people from other dojos maybe come and stuff like that. So if anyone is thinking about it and they want to start somewhere where there isn't kendo, you just got to be persistent and it will come.
So you shared a lot of really great photos with us. So it's a great way to talk about these experiences with a little more detail. So maybe we could start with the first one. Looks like you're
Yeah.
on some tatami mat.
Yeah, so this was our dojo. You can see it was really I mean, it wasn't some a place where you can train kendo, but it was a really humble start. Like I said, the second photo is us, and this was probably the first time we got into bogus. But basically, our training for maybe a year, it was only comprised of suburi and ashisabaki. So we were only doing that, and maybe Kihon men, Kihon kote, and stuff like that. It was really, really basic. But I think looking back, it really helped us, because when you focus that much on basics, everything else comes much faster than later. I also found that out in Iaido with some other techniques. But yeah, this was like, we had tatami floors. It was really awful. But on the other hand, like I said, we did a lot of basic stuff. So in my opinion, it was good.
Yeah, just to quickly, because some people might be listening to this on just a podcast app, so they wouldn't see the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just describing the first one, you guys are on tatami. It looks like an
Yeah.
Iaido dojo or gym.
Yeah, we are on a tatami. We're doing probably suburi, and also another maybe funny thing. It may be interesting. The guy who's leading, who later we were founders of the club, he was like 16, 17 at the time. We didn't know how old he was, and he was leading all of us because he was the first one who had that seminar with the guys from the capital, and he was really good at leading. So we didn't even question how young he was. But later, when we found out, it was really funny. But he was a good practice leader, yeah. And on the second photo, yeah, we're also on the tatami. We're in our bogu, and it's really funny when you when you fight for the first time. You do jigeiko, and you don't have anyone who's senior who's done it before. It's really an uphill battle, you could say, to learn. But yeah, so that's it. Yeah.
And then, so that was in 2008, 9 or so.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the other photo. So this is all three of us. All three of us are actually called Marko, which is very interesting. Except Ivan Marko, he has two names, but you know. So this was probably this is April, I think, 2010, and we founded our club. I mean, the idea was before, but like officially it was founded March 2010 when it was put into like a registry in our local city council and everything. But we started with trainings from January 2010. And this was probably, it was certainly our first Taikai. And we went all the way to Budapest, which is like 500 kilometers from Rijeka. And it was a really fun journey, and I remember one of the senior guys from Zagreb was really surprised to see us there. He was like, "Oh wow, yeah, you came all the way here." So he probably knew that we were a bit more serious than he thought at the time. But yeah, it was a great experience, and I mean, first Taikai, it's always you learn a lot, you meet new people and everything. So it was a great experience. So for anyone who's also starting, one of the most important things, at least in my opinion, is traveling. Go to other places, go to Taikai seminars. It's an incredible wealth of knowledge that you can learn from other people, from your peers, from other people starting and everything. So yeah, that was a great memory. Yeah.
So that was what, like a 5-hour, 5.5 hour, 6-hour drive?
Yeah. It was probably less because Ivan Marko, he drives really fast. So we were probably there in 4 hours, I would reckon. But yeah, something like that.
Okay,
And
cool.
from what I remember, we went there, did the Taikai, and went back the same day.
Oh, wow. So early morning, late nights.
Yeah.
Was that before Iaido started?
That was after, because we started the Iaido when we were in the old dojo. Yeah, we started before the club was founded, and that was thanks to Denis Tosic. He was the dojo leader from Karlovac, a small city near the capital. And he did a small seminar for Iaido. And at that time, if I remember correctly, he was back from a seminar in Japan with Iwata Norikazu sensei, the late Iwata Norikazu sensei. And for anyone who doesn't know Iwata sensei, he was a really, really impressive sensei, and with a wealth of incredible knowledge. And so when Dennis came to show us Iaido, he was really enthusiastic, and he showed us the Koryu kata and everything. And I was immediately thrust, you could say, upon the position of leading Iaido in our section, because I was the only one who attended all the classes when he did the seminar. But I really loved Iaido. Immediately, I was attracted to the kata and everything. And I was really lucky to find a good teacher like Dennis. at the time.
Because it looks like the next couple of pictures are seminars.
Yeah. So this is okay. In the pictures, first picture is our first dojo, first place where we had Keiko, like officially, like Kendo. So I will just talk a bit about the place, because it was really a great dojo, a great space, even though it had terrible floors. Even though from the pictures you can see it, but the floors were sticking out and everything. It was not the ideal place, but on the other hand, it had a great vibe, because they had an Aikido club there with Keiko and a Tai Chi club. And we were in the center of the city, and we had there was windows on the outside part of the dojo. So it was really light during the day. It was a really nice place. Now it's a museum actually of contemporary art these days. But yeah, so we had a lot of seminars those days. We called Dennis. On the other picture he was at the time, I don't know if there, but he was at one time the national team coach for Croatia, and he had a great influence on our kendo in Rijeka, because later he actually came to live in Rijeka, and that was really lucky, because we had someone who could be the main coach, the leader of training, who had much more knowledge than we had, because we literally started from zero. When we started, we didn't have our done grades. We were really in queue, but so that was really a lot of help. Yeah.
Cool. So how did you progress from there? It seems like you went to a few seminars that you had people come to.
Yes. So the second picture, we had a lot of people come. I mean, on the second picture is Eli from Slovenia. He's also from Israel. He's a great Iaidoka and Kendoka. And here we had a joint Keiko session with the guys from Slovenia. It was a really great experience, because somehow we got the local TV station to come and do a little report on Iaido in Rijeka. So it was really nice. But yeah, like I said before, it's incredibly important to travel. And something I found during all my years in Budo, a big difference maybe with people like me and some other people who started Kendo in Croatia, is that you take you take knowledge a lot more seriously when you go to seminars and stuff like that. And every time someone corrects you, it's like a blessing. It's you take it really seriously. You thank them. The thanks aren't just for show. It's a genuine thank you, because when they show you something wrong, you see, okay, so this is how it should be. You maybe overanalyze some stuff that if you come to a dojo that has a sensei and something, you wouldn't think about. You would get instructions and you would just follow. But when you start and you have to lead and have everything on your own back, you have to learn. You have to take everything that someone says, your peers, and take it very seriously, and incorporate it into your own know-how, you could say. No?
Yeah, that seems like something that you would then follow up on. Like if you had instruction during a seminar or during a class, and then afterwards when you're going out for food or you're just meeting up with people, that's a chance for you to maybe talk to others and say, okay, I got this. What do you think it means? How can I use this? How can I teach this? Did you find much conversations around the pointers that you were getting?
Yeah, we had pointers, but it was because at the time, most of the time, only me and the other Marko were, because we were like, you could say the leaders. I was the secretary at the time, and he was the president of the club. So we were the ones traveling. So, but it was more of a discussion. It wasn't a discussion. It was more like we would come to the dojo and we would try it out, and we would see, okay, this works. This is what they told us. What were we doing wrong before? What are we doing different now? It was a learning process. But on the other hand, like I said, when you learn like that, it stays with you much stronger, in a stronger way than when you learn in a more, you could say.
I want to pick up on something you mentioned, was the local TV station came about. Did you see any change in terms of like people coming, or did you send the link to like your friends and family just to say, hey, we were on TV?
Yeah, they saw me, yeah, but we had a bit more, some more people at that time, but there wasn't a huge influx of people because it's a really small TV station. I mean, very few people watch like the local TV. But it was at that time, I think, until now, this was the biggest the Iaido section was in our club. We had a really nice set of people. Unfortunately, there was a lot of maybe younger people that later went to college and everything in different cities, so they had to quit. But yeah, at that time it was we had a lot of people for Iaido. It was, I think, 10 of us, so it was great.
Okay. Over the years, it seems like you've continued making these travels. It looks like going
Yeah.
to Hungary seems to be a regular thing.
Yeah. So Hungary, because for Iaido, my sensei and the sensei of Dennis was Hunor Mihalik sensei. So when we did the first exam, I remember we went by train to to Budapest for Sankyu, for Iaido. So that was, and there I met Hunor sensei, and yeah, so because they have a really strong both Iaido and Kendo, and it's not near, but it's all highway. And for those who don't live in Europe, they know Europe is usually not that well connected as maybe in the US. So when something is maybe 300 kilometers away, but it's not connected by highway, it's much longer than a city that's maybe 600 kilometers away, but it's all highway. So Budapest was really, really nice for that. And they had the beginner taikai for Kendo, the Sakura Cup, and that was always great experience. And yeah, but for me, it was mostly for Iaido. I was there a lot for Iaido and Koryu especially. Yeah.
Yeah, as much as like you're saying, it's a straightaway highway. It's still like a 4 hour at least drive to get there. So it's not as easy to get more of your dojo's members to go if they can't travel.
Yeah. That was definitely a problem. I wouldn't say a problem, but definitely an issue at the time, because when you start, of course, you don't have a lot of finances in the club. It's very basic. So when we traveled, you have to pay for the gas, for the stay in a hotel or a hostel or something. So yeah, it is expensive. I mean, when I look back now, we were traveling really a lot, and basically all my free time was dedicated to that, to saving money for going to trips, going to taikai, going to seminars and stuff like that. I don't know if I could do it again. So definitely my age was a factor at the time, because if I was older, it would be much harder. Of course, nowadays we have a more stable club and even some help from the local sport federation of the city. So maybe we can get some finances or something to help all our members go. So it's always a great experience for everyone when they go to a trip somewhere and they experience other people. They see how big Kendo can be, and they do taikai. They learn something new. It's like I said, traveling really is, like, for a young club, in my opinion, like one of the top priorities.
So talk about when you finally had a chance for the whole club, or at least a large group of your club, to be able to make.
So that was one of these pictures. It was Samobor Cup. Yeah, it was a small taikai in Samobor. It's really great because it's near. It's like 2 hours away, and I mean, it was a great experience, because before we started the club, we would go and just watch Samobor Cup. We would just watch, and it was like, wow, can't wait. Maybe one day we can go there. And so when we went with the whole club, it was a great experience. Definitely, it's always great to travel and do taikai with more members. You get a sense of camaraderie, you could say. You learn something new about your colleagues, someone from the dojo, and you start to build like a smaller community. And it's something that for me it's really important, more important maybe than the physical or the technical. It's that people connect, and they feel the same joy doing Kendo and learning together when we do it. Yeah.
When you think of a trip like that, or even that particular trip, what would be something that you really enjoyed, found very meaningful outside of the actual practice? So it's not in the dojo, it's not during the seminar, but outside when you're with the other groups. What's something that really sticks in your mind?
Just like I said, just hanging out. That's the best part, because you learn a lot of. Most of my friends these days, actually, I met them in Kendo. We found some mutual interests and stuff like that. But also another thing that I really like when we go to trips is just visiting the city. Kendo really gave me the opportunity to travel a lot. So, I mean, Budapest is a beautiful city. So every time we go there, it's always a trip, or you get to see some new places. Yeah, I think it's like a road trip. I mean, it is a road trip in a way. So you get to learn Kendo, and you also get to see the city, learn something more about people, maybe meet a new friend and stuff like that. Yeah. So for me, it's that.
Do you have one particular anecdote that you might be able to share, like one interesting or fun experience, or one specific, like?
I remember, I don't know, in Hungary, we have a summer seminar, choreo seminar, that actually it's for every stage of the year, but the summer seminar is the biggest one. And I remember I went with Dennis, and the seminar is always at the lake, Balaton, the biggest lake in Hungary. And I come from the sea. I mean, I'm a sea guy, and we went there, and it was really hot. It was like extremely warm, and we went to the beach of the lake, and it was like this muddy water full of algae and everything. And it was, for me, it was disgusting, because like I said, I come from the sea. If it's not clear, if it's not seawater, I don't go near it. But Dennis, he was like, okay, I gotta take a bath. I gotta refresh myself. So he went inside, and he swam on the you could say illegal side of the lake, because you can't swim everywhere, because they have like predisposed places for the beach. And he returned, and then, I mean, he was all covered in bruises from, because it's shallow water, it's not deep. And yeah, that was one of the, I mean, more absurd experiences from one of our trips. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So when there's these trips that you're going on, there's some small seminars, there's going to different countries. Talk about something like a national event in Croatia, like participating.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I mean, we as a club, I think, are really proud. Is that when we started, it wasn't my idea. It was the idea of Marko Ivankovic. He was the president at that time, because at the time we didn't have a national championship. It was something that was we just didn't have it. And one of the criteria to enter the Olympic Federation in Croatia, but I think in every country, is to have a national championship. We were really lucky. One of our members, his father, is part of a diving club that has a lot of experience in doing championships, stuff like that. So we organized the first national Croatian championship in 2011, basically a year after we founded our club. So that was a great experience, probably one of my favorite championships in the early days, you could say. I remember, I think I won fighting spirit, and one of our members also won third place, I think, or even also fighting spirit. But it was a great experience to see the organization, you know, to see the stuff that usually happens behind the curtains when you go to a taikai and stuff like that. So that the first one was definitely a hallmark for us as a club, but also for the Croatian Federation. And then later it was simply something that nowadays it seems as normal. Like every year we have the national championships.
So in it, like you were saying, in order to, when you first start out, you have to have this passion, you have this drive, you have kind of this youthful energy. So you're able to travel, you're able to build a new club, you're able to even host like the first of any national tournament. But to keep it going is also really difficult.
Yeah,
So
that's probably,
that happen?
yeah, that's one of the hardest parts of the whole story, because as you can see, most of the pictures were from the early days, because we were so passionate at the beginning. And I think, I wouldn't say we burnt out, but it was really, we found out it's not sustainable to go to that many events, to host maybe something on or everything. You have to build a good base in your own town, in your own dojo. But yeah, that's the hardest part, especially in the beginning, when like I said, we just started. We were really low grades. I mean, I'm still a very low grade in Kendo and Iaido, but when you start, and it's hard sometimes to what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, brain fart. I mean, it's really hard to make yourself continue and practice at the same volume as you did in the beginning. But that's also one of the most important things I found out in my journey is consistency. Even when you feel that you're not progressing, when you're stuck in, you think you're stuck in one place, that your kendo or your technique, your kata isn't improving, it is improving. It's just like it's an illusion. It's a mental trick you do on yourself, because at the start your progress is so fast, especially if you have a good physical, like good motorics, good biomechanics and everything. You learn fast. Everything is fast, but then you maybe go shodan, and then it's slower. You have like 1 year to go to nidan, and maybe, and everybody, you were at Q taikai, and now you're at dan taikai. That's much harder. You have to fight with people who are godan, rokudan, yondan, who are in national teams and everything, and it's like a second beginning. You start anew, and then it's much slower. It's much harder, the techniques and but only consistency. It may be slow, but you will feel, you will notice the difference. It's like when you put something like a kettle on hot water. Maybe the first, when you start it warms up fast, but it takes a bit longer to get to that boiling point. It's like, for me, it's like that. You start fast, you get maybe to a first downgrade, but then it's much slower. It's much more methodical, and you must think much more about techniques and some deeper stuff, seme, how it influences some other things in your kendo and also Iaido. So yeah, but like I said, consistency. Just coming to trainings, it's hard to motivate yourself, but on the other hand, when you see the results, it's worth it. It really is. But it's hard. I also notice it with people that came and still are in our dojo. You feel like you come to a point of diminishing returns. You don't feel the same amount of progress as you did before, and I think that's really hard on people. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, or because we always want instant gratification in a sense, and Kendo and Iaido, it's not like that. It's really, you have to put in the work for a long time, and then you see the results.
I think we're also programmed to have a diverse set of experiences, and because like you're saying, when you're first learning, there's always something new. There's always something coming at you that piques your interest, that kind of, but when you train for a long enough time, you start focusing and you have to work on the same thing over and over and over before you can see that next jump in level.
Yeah.
When you're practicing a lot, some of your side hobbies start to go away too. Like you're starting to do just Kendo and just Iaido, and you maybe used to play sports, maybe used to play games. That's gone now. So how have you been able to manage this? Because like all of us that have been very passionate and very like excited about these, we quickly realize that, oh, all these other interests that we had started disappearing. And then when it starts getting hard in the practice, we don't have something to fall back on. So how do you balance that kind of finding other
I
interests?
don't know. I mean, I think it's safe to say that Kendo and Iaido are like my main interests nowadays. But I looked at it maybe in a different way as things progressed, because it was maybe the other way around. When things got hard and not very interesting in the rest of my life, I could fall Kendo on Iaido that was very stable. So you could watch it that way also. So yeah, it definitely took up a lot of my time, but I mean, when I started doing Budo and everything, when I looked into it, and I always knew I was going to do this for a very long time. It wasn't something that I thought, okay, I'm going to do it for a couple of years and then we'll see. It was because I met so many people that are doing that for a very long time. I mean, you find all the senseis they're doing it their whole lives. So I knew I had the idea that yeah, it's going to be a long journey, and for me it won't be a problem. I mean, I can take it. I can take it for the long run, you could say. But it isn't easy, definitely.
So you feel like because you've already made this decision, you said, okay, I'm going to be in it, that there is
Yeah,
no changing mind. So it's just natural.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I knew. Um, I mean, I didn't want to rush anything. I really didn't, because my priority for Iaido at the time, or at the beginning, was I want to learn good fundamentals so I can teach the next generation and the generation maybe after, and to be maybe someone who can be a point of reference in this part of the world. You could, I mean, in our city, but also in maybe neighboring cities and that are near. That when you go, okay, I have some knowledge that's not, you could say, that shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, in a way. So yeah, it's different because, like I said, when you start a club, in my opinion, the priorities are different. It's not maybe when someone starts in a well-established club and he wants to go to a lot of taikais and just get medals or something like that. It's really about knowledge and like getting the most knowledge and getting the right vibe, you could say, or the right attitude towards the art. Because I also never wanted to. We have. I don't think it's a problem, but every country I think has dojos that do martial arts in a very frivolous way. You could say it's not very serious. They don't have a federation. They're outside of everything, and this is something I also liked about Kendo. It's one federation, and I mean, wherever you go, you're most probably going to do the same thing. I mean, the keiko isn't going to be completely different in different parts of the world. So we really wanted to do something that's consistent. That if you go in Kendo Club Rijeka and then you go in another club in another part of the world, it's not going to be different. It's going to be probably somewhere there. Okay, maybe the quality won't be the same with that many higher grade people, but the keiko is going to be probably the same.
Yeah, I think this is a great mindset to have, this long-term perspective on passing on knowledge, on making sure that everyone's on the same page so that wherever you go, there's always an opportunity to train. So speaking of passing down things, I noticed that several sets of photos of Koryu. Can you maybe talk about your introduction to that and how that's developed?
Yeah, so like I said, sorry, sorry about that. Yeah, so Koryu. Yeah, I was really lucky that Dennis, yeah, had a great teacher who later, okay, who became also my teacher in a way. And yeah, when I first saw Koryu, I was really impressed. I mean, I liked the Iaido, but when I saw Koryu, it was really another level. And we were really lucky to have a lot of seminars with Yabe Yasutaka. I put quite a few pictures, I think, with his seminars. And that was at a time when I was really active in Iaido. I really wanted to, because I recognized that it was a unique time when that I had to take, how would I say it? I had to take advantage of the time, because Yabe Sensei was coming to Hungary, and we also had the luck that he came to Karlovac in Croatia. So that was one of probably the greatest seminars, because there was really not a lot of us, and he had a lot of time to explain things in more detail. Had a more personal approach because there was less people. And yeah, I mean, my experience with choreo is incredible. Also because the Hungarian guys, they have their own organization, you could say. That I think it's an organization, they call it for the preservation of an ancient Japanese martial art. No, but it's like a choreo. It's the choreo, but so they can get probably fundraisers and stuff like that. But the guys who do choreo, they really have a tight community, and they're I mean, I really feel like part of that community because they really helped us a lot, both me and Dennis. When we had to go for seminars, they would, if we didn't have maybe the finances, they would try and find them some place to stay, or maybe we didn't have to pay the fee of the seminar or something like that. They really went out of their way to help us out in this learning process. And this was probably one of my greatest experiences in Iaido, but also in Budo in general, that this tight community and helping out and just learning together, wanting to learn together, wanting to progress together. That's a great experience. And also I had the honor, probably my greatest moment in Budo, that I received a gift from Yabe Sensei. It was Bokuto with an inscription on it. That was really unexpected because I was just a beginner at the time, even though, okay, I was trying to do my best, going on all seminars and everything, but I was really not not a high grade, and it was really impressed on me. I felt extremely humbled, and it was a great experience. I mean, it's not something that you get every day, you know, a gift from your sensei. It's a great experience, definitely. And also the inscription was really meaningful to me because it said, it's a Zen saying. I later found out that it says like, come back in 30 years, something like that. But actually, when you look at the kanji and everything, the meaning is to never think you know everything, to always learn like a beginner, always from the start. And that's something that even before that, I always try to have that feeling that, okay, even if I learn something, even if I'm a higher grade, I want to have a beginner mindset. I want to learn like I'm learning for the first time. So I'm not stuck maybe in my ego or my ability or something, even though it's not very good, but it can get to you. But always to look at it in a very humble way, like you're always starting for the beginning.
Yeah, that must be such an amazing experience having that kind of gift, but also in that sense, after you had a chance to think about it, it's also a great responsibility to carry on what he's taught.
Definitely. That was like, from that point, it was like a pact I made with myself. Okay, now I'm really must keep the flame alive, you could say, in our dojo for the Iaido, no? Because Iaido, it's probably, I mean, I talked to a lot of people during my travels, and most people have the same problem. It's always a smaller amount of people that train Iaido in comparison to Kendo, and it's always the same. So it's really important for me to continue, just to continue. That's also one of my, what I'm most proud of, that I'm still here, that I'm still continuing after all these years, even though it's not that many years, but it feels like it was. Now that I look back and at all the photos, it feels like almost a lifetime in a way. Of travels and everything. Yeah.
So talk about your first and then maybe your most recent European Iaido Championship.
Yeah, so that was the first one actually. Yeah, that was a great experience. And we had the possibility to go before, but due to some certain circumstances, we didn't. And then this time, it was really like the federation, the Kendo Federation said that, okay, we can finance the travel expenses and that. So if you want, but I was also set, I had, at that time, I was established at my job, so I had a better pay. And I was like set, okay, I can do it, I can go, the finances aren't a problem. Even if they don't finance me, I can take the trip and everything. So it was more, for me, it was more like I went there to gather intel, you could say, to gather information, to see what it's like, because no one before went to a European Championship. And I wanted to, more than to compete, I wanted to see what it looks like. What do I have to know for maybe next year and for other years? So when I went alone. That's something that I definitely won't ever do again because it's very hard, because you have to attend the manager part. You have to be careful where your taika is. All the stuff that usually other people do, you have to do it all by yourself, which is very hard for a European Championship, because it's not like some small taika. It's like a big deal. It's a lot of people. But from that point, I mean, it was a great experience, and I hope I learned a lot from the organizational standpoint, at least. So next time, hopefully next year, we're gonna go in greater numbers, and we can organize much more in easier fashion and everything. So it was a great experience, but it was very stressing. It wasn't easy.
Well, as the only Croatian there too, everyone's looking at you and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is Croatian Iaido."
Yeah. So it was, for me, it was, I just wanted to do my best Iaido. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about anything. I just wanted to do my best Iaido. Okay, I got one flag, I think. I'm sure I got one flag, so I'm happy with that. And also some guys from Hungary came to me and they said I did really well. So I was happy with that I didn't drop the ball, you could say, on something. I think I did okay, but yeah, unfortunately I was so overwhelmed with all the things that I had to do. I didn't meet that that many people, except maybe I said hi to some people from Kitamoto and stuff like that, but I didn't have that much. I wasn't in a state of mind where I can maybe relax and meet other people. So it was a really stressed experience, but a really good one.
You mentioned Kitamoto. Talk about that.
Yeah. So that was also last year, and that was something when we started the club that was like a dream. We knew we had to be at least Sandan for Kitamoto, and basically when I did the Sandan exam, that was like one of the first things on my mind, to go to Kitamoto, because all of the guys who went from Croatia, they said it was an incredible experience, and really it was. It's probably my favorite experience in Kendo. All the people, the atmosphere, the teachers. We also went to the All Japan Kids Championship, and that was incredible. I mean, you're usually used to, okay, even the bigger championships in Europe, like Europeans, and you see a lot of people, but when you go to Budokan and see all those kids, like the whole Budokan full, just practicing, warming up, it's like another thing. It puts into perspective how small Kendo is outside of Japan. Even if Kendo is bigger than Iaido, it's still so small. It's just a fraction of that's practiced in Japan. But yeah, Kitamoto was an incredible experience, definitely. Meeting other people from other cultures, just like everything. It's something for me. If anybody will listen, that wasn't, I mean, has the chance to go, definitely prioritize Kitamoto, because Kitamoto is really great experience, especially for someone who's in a position to as a leader, as a dojo leader, or doing like keiko leader or coach or something. Definitely, it's really a great place.
So do you want to choose one more photo before we get into the final rapid fire?
Yeah, I want to talk maybe a bit about my members. One member in particular, because I think it's a great. I consider it a really nice anecdote, at least, because they're really nice people. So it's page 18. So, okay, those of you who don't see, it's basically a bunch of beginners doing ashisabaki in the picture. From second from the right, you see a younger kid. So this is Noah, and on his left, I mean, from our left is his mother, Roberta. And this is really a nice, one of the nicest things. He started doing kendo first, and she was coming to drop him off, basically. And she would stay during training and just read a book and so she's decided one day, okay, I'm gonna train just so I don't waste my time there. So she started training, and also her husband started training. And then over time, both her husband and her son quit, and she continued, and she became one of the members of the Croatian national team, women's, and she competed in the European Championships.
Oh, wow.
She's
That's
really,
amazing.
yeah, I really love her journey, and she's one of really, she has really a great fighting spirit. She's a great, a really big inspiration for me, even though she's like a kohai, but she has an incredible spirit for kendo.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for sharing all these great pictures and stories. I want to just get into some rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit more. I think we might have mentioned one before, but I'm just going to ask this again. What's a quote or a proverb or something that you like to think about when you practice?
Yeah, this is one I use a lot during practice, because we sometimes do a lot of suburi and maybe a lot of kiryoroshi during Iaido. And I always say you should not practice like 100 cuts once, but one cut 100 times. It's from a Bruce Lee quote. He talks about kicks, but I think the sentiment is the same, because you don't want to like lose yourself in the repetition. You want to do each repetition like it's one repetition. It's one cut, like that's the final cut in a way. And with that philosophy, I mean, you can progress much faster, in my opinion, than just doing the mechanical stuff, doing suburi, doing kata or something infinite amounts of times, or just doing it maybe even 10 times. But those 10 times you are focused, you're really thinking about that cut. So yeah, that's definitely a quote.
What is something that you've changed your mind over in the last year or two? Something that you either used to believe was true that is different now, or something that you didn't think was important, but now you feel is really important?
One of the things when I started that I didn't think, or even a few years back, was Taikai. I didn't really think much of competition. It's even now, it's not that important to me. But over time, also thanks to some members in our club that are really passionate about competition, I changed my mind I mean, I didn't change my mind. I just look at it in a different way. I think it's much more important than I first gave it credit. You could say, no, because at the beginning for me it was more like seminars, this, that, and Taikai was always like on a second place. But these days, it's definitely, it serves its purpose in a big way in both Kendo and both Iaido. So yeah, that's definitely something that changed my mind.
You mentioned that to start, when you started doing Kendo, or your interest in Japanese culture came from a book called Shogun. What is something, what's a piece of media, either a book or movie or TV show or podcast or something, that influences you more today?
Today, I think, okay, Shogun was definitely a big influence to me, but some other piece of media. I mean, I consume a lot of media, you could say, because I have a lot of interest in art and music. And one of the only things I'm known in the club, if I miss Keiko, it's usually because I go to a concert. so I don't know if there's something that influential to me, but you could say probably some movie. I don't know if I could say something. It's Kubrick's movies. They definitely left an impression on me, and it's not something I come back to maybe philosophically, but as a piece of art, as something like that. It's something that I really appreciate.
I've heard that a lot from people, and it's something that it takes a certain view or perspective to be able to understand or even just appreciate. For someone that maybe doesn't really understand what it is about his movies, could you try to explain a little bit what impact it has?
I mean, he's very meticulous. I mean, I watched about his work, and you can sense that in his work that it's not random. It's very, I wouldn't say it is calculated. It has a vision. It has a certain something that he wants to impress upon you. So all movies, even the comedies, even Doctor Strangelove, there's something about it that he wants to that comes across really strongly. And every movie, I think, has something that he wants to convey in a very strong way, but also everything is very meticulous. So it's very interesting. Yeah, it's hard to put into words for me because I go by feeling, you could say. But yeah, that would be something. Yeah.
So like there's an overarching theme when you go away, you're like, there's something about this whole movie that captures one kind of message. While let's say if you go to Avengers movie, it's like that was a fun scene and that was a fun scene and that was a fun scene, and then you're just done with it.
Yeah. I I enjoy his movies, but I usually enjoy also a lot of movies that are very aesthetic, and he has a very strong sense of aesthetics, and that's also one of my favorite movies by him is Eyes Wide Shut, and that's a movie that has a lot of impressionable scenes. You could just take a scene out of context and it would still leave a big impression upon you because it's so well made, so well. The photography is, because he was also a photographer, and you can see that in his movies. The photography is really impressive. It's maybe he also, of course, from today's standards, all of his movies are a bit slower, but I don't see them that way. It's really it's a work of art that you should take your time and enjoy, feel out, and see maybe a couple of more times to maybe get something out of it more than just the first impression.
Yeah, actually, the way that you're describing it, I'm getting this feeling, and it's making me feel like how Iaido is, because it's like there's nothing there besides that person, and then each kata there's something happening, and you have to be able to see it. It might be slow in some areas, but if the person's really good, there's something there that.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things I love about Iaido. When you look at someone a really high rank or even lower ranks that are really during competition at the European Championships, I was really impressed by, I don't remember her name, but she was from Slovakia. I think she won Yondan competition, and she was so immersed in the kata that it was just incredible just to watch how she was doing kata. And sometimes when I practice, I also get immersed, but it happens, it's really random, you could say. It's not always like that, but that's definitely one of the appeals of Iaido when doing the katas.
Cool. A couple more simple ones and then we'll wrap up. What is your comfort food?
Pizza, definitely. I love making pizza more than anything else, because usually I'm the kind of person with food. If I like something, I'm not gonna order it. I'm just gonna learn the best way to prepare it and make it my way, you could say. So yeah, pizza is definitely, because I like working with dough, and so yeah, that's number one, definitely.
Talk about the last one you made.
The last one I made. I made it probably a couple of days ago. Okay, so this is a process, so I'm gonna bore you a bit because I have my own starter. So, and I use the Italian ratio, so I use 70% water on 100% flour, and I use a bit of starter, and I leave it. Of course, I knead it. I leave it for at least 2 days in the refrigerator, and then I have a pizza maker, a small pizza maker, so I just put the dough. One of the most important things I learned is when dealing with dough, the most important ingredient is time. When you learn that, it becomes a different thing when doing something. So pizza is also that, the fermentation and the process of waiting. And yeah, for everything else, I just, for toppings, I use the usual stuff. Like during summer, I make my own salsa because we have a lot of tomatoes here. But during winter, I just buy something I cook, so I can season it at my will. And I put some cheese, some vegan cheese because I'm vegan. I had to say it. And some vegetables, and that's it.
Yeah. It's so funny, actually. Over the course of this interview, we've really realized there's one thing, this overarching theme about you, whether it's the practice where you believe, okay, I need to think long term, I can't rush things, whether it's Kubrick's movies where they're a little slower and you have to be patient with what's coming. And then this discussion about the dough, how you have to be patient and let time run. There's just this thing about you that you can appreciate that things take time and you have the patience to let it just come.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah, it is. I'm not a person that always goes for instant gratification. I like when I take my time and I can enjoy it much more that way.
Well, I hope that's a lesson that a lot rest of us learn. It's definitely needed these days. We're not getting out of the house.
Yeah,
Internationally
unfortunately,
for
yeah.
a while, so we need that patience. Yeah. Do you have anything in closing? Any message that you want to say? Something that you just want to share? Before we
I just want to thank you. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts, and there was quite a few people I met, and it was a great thing to pick their brain and to see how other people view Budo or have viewed Budo in their own life. So this is more of a thank you to you for this podcast.
I'm glad. Thank you for being part of it now.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode because we have a lot more exciting conversations to share as we explore the world of the traditional Japanese martial arts. The Inside Look podcast is brought to you by our amazing patrons over at Patreon. If you are enjoying this work, please consider supporting me at patreon.com/Tokuskai Canada. To contribute to this effort, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at tokuskai.canada or subscribe to our newsletter at subscribe@tokuskai.ca. Until next time, thanks for listening.